And we're live. Oh, that was terrifying. It literally it logged into my other device somewhere, and then it said that I was not allowed to stream. Woo. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm your host, and that was a test for your microphones. Glad you're here. Super stoked about tonight's episode. We're going to talk about the Red Rocks with Brad Stevenson, Paint Bing on YouTube. And we'll put a link in the description. One of you guys dig up Paint Bing's YouTube channel. He's got some great videos on there. He was actually one of the guys that inspired me in the very beginning, and making videos, and we would bounce off of each other. So Paint Bing, I want to encourage you, go and subscribe to his channel. Let's see if we can add like 20 subscribers to his channel. That'd be awesome. Just for fun. Just do it. Wonderful show tonight. Moderation, Sean Nafsker's with us. He's moderating. He's going to be spinning the wheel of winning things at some point during the show. Also, Anthony Peregringo. He's going to be moderating the chat, making sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. If you see someone with a tool next to their name, that's because they've done something exceptional for the paragliding community, or they've just been around for a long time. When I first started handing out wrenches, like Craig Couch was one of the very first guys, and the guy claims that he has watched and been a part of more episodes than I have. That's pretty amazing. So he gets a wrench. Also, check your email. There's a few people in the chat that are logging in right now that may have received an invitation to join this episode of paraglidingtalk.com. This is episode 233. And there's some conspiracy about how many episodes there really are. Could it be 234? It might be. It could be. So glad that you're here. We're going to have a great show tonight. We're going to talk about I keep on wanting to say the Red Bull Red Rocks, but it wasn't sponsored by Red Bull. That would be pretty cool if it was, I guess. But there were actually some pretty big names that were there. We're going to talk about those people, including Brad, and we're going to have a great show tonight. I want to mention a couple things. One of those is PPG Smoke, ppgsmoke.com. Go and buy some stuff from there, because they're one of the sponsors of the show. They donate a bunch of stuff to the show over the years, and we're going to do some giveaway stuff tonight even. And those giveaways are all sponsored by PPG Smoke. So if you want to support the show, and maybe you don't want to give to the Patreon, or you don't want to be a PayPal supporter or whatever, you can support by buying stuff from the sponsors or whatever it is. There's a bunch of schools and stuff. So anyways, ppgsmoke.com, go check out their website. Also want to mention paramotorprops.com. Paramotorprops.com. Accidentally blow up a prop. It happens. You paramotor pilots, get on the website, paramotorprops.com. You can order a brand new one right away, and they will take care of you. American Allied Drains and Plumbing. If you got some plumbing issues and you're in San Diego area, they're going to take care of you by mentioning paraglidingtalk.com. They will give you a 10% discount, if you can believe that. 10% discount on all of your plumbing services. And so you can reach out to them. Their phone number is 844-777-9055. So thank you again, Brad, for jumping on tonight. And literally some of the episodes that we have are literally just me being selfish and wanting to know more about stuff. And I was really jealous that you went, and we trained together just like a couple days during the season. Remember?
Yeah.
And you were hitting it like every day, but I jumped on the path with you for a couple runs. And so anyways, super cool that you got to enter into the Red Rocks in Utah. Can you please, if there's going to be some people that don't know you, I know you've been on the show a bunch of times, you've moderated, and you've hung out with us multiple times. Tell everybody where you started, how you got into paragliding, and then we're going to dig into the good stuff.
All right. So from the very beginning, I've always kind of known that I've wanted to be a paragliding pilot, like ever since I was a little kid. I'd watch, this was in Utah, and they would fly off of Francis Peak, the hang gliders and then the paragliders, and land at my school. And, I'm always like, oh, one day I want to do that. I'm going to do that. But I also want to be an astronaut, So,
yeah. Or a dinosaur.
Yeah. And, and this is like, as a kid, you don't think about it. And then I had an opportunity to do a tandem flight in Japan. And it was like this multi, canyoneering, kayaking, tandem paragliding. I'm like, oh, heck yeah. Went on the tandem flight, which is actually my very first YouTube video ever. And I was kind of hooked. So I was looking for schools, found a school, and I was kind of afraid because I didn't speak Japanese. And the instructor happened to speak enough English. He's like, my English is okay. I'll teach you.
Oh, that's terrifying.
I learned in Japan. And what I always tell people, it's like the school I was with, super safe, safest school that I know of. Like it would take equivalent here, like to get your P1 equivalent here, like 8 weeks. In Japan, it's like a year. P2 is another year and a half, P3 is another year. And like, I didn't know better. And so this is like, join the school. I was like excited to fly. I'd go up every weekend and camp out in the clubhouse. And it got to the point where it was like, oh no, I don't want to say I'm better than everybody else, but it was like, I felt like I was being held back just due to the policy and whatnot. And I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm moving back to the States. I don't want to have to like retake courses and start over again, is there any way? And the teacher's like, I got you, and he would like stamp the card for me, like give me 20 stamps that would take people 10 flight, 10 days of training to get, in one day. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow. So I moved to the States with like a P3 equivalent, and kind of hooked up with Russman here, and he gave me the equivalent. So I was no longer flying dirty. And nice. And I guess the rest is history.
That's rad. My computer just did some weird glitchy stuff. Freaked me out for a second. Well, we're good. We're still there. So let's talk a little bit about the Red Rocks. So we did you go with us when we went to Red Rocks 3 years ago?
No, that was just
me, Mark,
Tony
Boyer, and Jeff. I don't know his last name, but yeah, but you didn't go on that. Did you say that you took a tandem in Utah?
No.
What where were you? You said you were at school in Utah and you saw
no. So when I was in elementary school, they would use the playground as like their LZ.
Yeah.
And
where was that?
It was in Farmington, so halfway between Salt Lake and Ogden. I think they've got a different LZ right now, but it's still an alternate.
And is that close enough to Point of the Mountain?
You could maybe XC up there. I know it's possible, but it's not close. It's
I guess what I'm getting at is it any of the guys that we know now that were using that LZ?
It could be,
I wonder
if there's still some old hangies out in Utah that have done that back in 1990 to 96. Sure.
I wonder. Anyways, that's super cool. So you've got a pretty deep background flying. I didn't realize how deep. That's pretty cool. What's your well, let's talk about the Red Rocks. So how did you, at what point were you like, you know what, I'm going to join in an extreme sport of, like, literally the Red Bull X Alps is, my opinion, the most extreme multi-sport, like triathlon type sport there is. Talk a little bit about how you got in there and why, like what was your decision making on that? Like at what point?
That's a funny one. So the X Red Rocks this year was the second year it was held. It was held last year. local pilots, Chris Souther and Nick Hawks, both competed. And they came back and they were just so pumped. And they started putting together like hike and fly tasks at Blossom. We had like the double barrel Blossom shootout,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when I'm
That
like,
was
oh,
fun.
this is fun. Oh, I like ended up in last place on that. Absolutely.
Really?
I was like trying to hike up with my XC kit, just out of shape. And it's just like, I'm like, wow, this is terrible, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was terrible, but fun, pleasure is pain or pain is pleasure, whatever it is. So, and then like I saw the announcement that they were accepting applications for next year. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun, hearing their stories. And on the application, it's like you have the pro class. And the pros are, it's like if you want to enter in the pro, you have to be in the comp scene, done hike and fly competitions before, basically elite athlete status. And then they had the next tier down, adventure class, which I ultimately ended up applying for, which was no top landings required. You're there to learn, have fun. It's not, I don't want to say it's not a competition. It's always a competition. And they're like, don't be intimidated, the tasks aren't going to be hard and whatnot. And that was the other thing, Chris and Nick said everybody hikes up, they get to the launch at the same, before anybody's in the air, everybody's up at launch. So it doesn't matter if you're a big strong hiker or not. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'm a little intimidated by it, but whatever, I'll apply. And like 2 weeks later, they start announcing like, hey, we've got some big names coming out from Europe, some Red Bull X Alps athletes are going to be competing. And it's like, they started like, I don't want to say making a big deal, but it was like, holy crap. Am I getting in over my head? No, I'm in the adventure class, whatever. And I found out in May, like May 1st, they announced the athletes, and it's like, yeah, no, by that point, I'm like, nah, there's no way they're selecting me, and all of a sudden it's like, well, they chose me. Guess I got to start this training regime.
How many people got in?
So they had, I want to say like 35 in the pro and like 31 in the adventure. For whatever reason, there were a lot of cancellations kind of towards the end. And so I want to say there was like 25 pros that competed and 23 adventure.
And was there a limit of 25 or something like that, or
no, they
20?
were going to keep it. They were going to keep it at I think the 35 for the pro and 30 for the adventure. It's just, there were just last minute dropouts, and then nobody's been training. I think Chris got an invite right at the end of August saying, hey, we've got an opening if you want it. And he's like, oh, I've already made other plans, haven't been training, So the number of, athletes that showed up were, a little smaller than what we had like, but still huge turnout. Like the people there were just super athletic still. And yeah.
What a trip that Aaron Duragati was there from. He's competed in the X Alps since I've been watching
The Italian
X Alps.
stallion.
Yeah, that dude is a champ.
Oh, he's a machine.
And I didn't, this is, I guess, one of the questions I need to ask. Is there a monetary value to this? I mean, do you get a prize?
So yeah, in the pro class, first place takes $5,000, second took $1,000, and third place got 500. Yeah.
No way.
And then in the adventure class, there were these awesome hand blown glass
trophies.
Not trophies, but beer glasses, beer steins. So, and then they were like etched in, with, the year. And so, yeah, prizes were awesome. One thing about Aaron, I'm saying he's a machine. I found out that he carries a half a liter water a day. That's it on these things. He's just trained in
camel.
Absolutely camel. I guess he hydrates the night before heavily and then carries a half liter. So his pack's real light. And the dudes can sprint. There was one task where, I got in the air and I'm flying out to this turn point, and I look down on the road and I see this dude like riding a bicycle with, a pack. I'm like, he's moving about the speed of somebody riding a bicycle. And I'm like, wait, he's not on a bicycle. The dude is just running, flat out sprinting. It was crazy.
That was Aaron Duragati.
That was Aaron Duragati. Yeah.
And that's what's crazy to me is like, that's every Red Bull X Alps athlete. They're all like thoroughbred.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I can't move like that.
I can't either.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I watch it like, wow, look at that. Must be
I'm
nice
a little stubby for that.
Like that. Yeah.
This is to put it in perspective. If Brad thinks that he's slow, I'm really slow because he smoked me up the hill. The first time he felt bad for me.
Right?
Well, the first time he was like walking with me, like walking backwards and telling stories the whole time. And I was like, how are you talking right now? Stop talking.
That was the same way in the race, actually, for me. I'm like, how are you guys holding a conversation here?
Yeah, they're all talking. Yeah. And that's another thing. And I want to talk about this a little bit. Your pack. I noticed that you're flying something totally different now. And just when we flew on Tuesday, when you pick up your gear now, you're like, that's like a JanSport backpack with a binder keeper in it.
It's right.
Yeah. Tiny.
Here.
Doesn't even weigh
right
probably what, like 15 pounds?
No, I think it's like 24, 23 pounds.
You're doing the math. I'm glad you stuck it to pounds.
No, it's because the kit that I was training with, I got that, like, had it shipped to Utah because I didn't know if it was going to arrive in time. So I've been training with a different pack, different glider, same harness and reserve was the same in the helmet, but like the pack itself and the wing shaved 4 kilograms off the entire pack.
Some of you guys might know Patrick Von Cano, that he flew in the X Alps as well.
He took second place in 2021.
Yes, that's right.
Right behind Kriegel.
So that dude's a beast. Then you have Tim Roche. Is that how you say his name?
I think so. I don't know how to say their last names.
But yeah, I have heard his name. He's also X Alps. Was there any other X Alps pilots that you knew?
Tanguy Renaud.
Now, is that the guy?
And I think he took second place overall in X Red Rocks.
No kidding.
Yeah,
and
behind Aaron Duragati.
I never even heard who won. So was it Aaron Duragati who won the whole thing?
Aaron took first place. Tanguy took second. And then I want to say it was like Kevin Baker.
Kevin can fly. He's in the chat.
Yeah. I don't have it pulled up, but I could.
Do you know what Aaron Duragati's flying? What wing he's flying?
So, no, I don't.
I wonder what.
And that's because somebody, I didn't ask him directly, but somebody was saying, "Oh yeah, I asked him." I'm like, "So this is a such and such, but it's really not the such and such wing, right?" He's like, "No, like they're custom made for him."
Oh, no kidding. That's cheating. It wasn't a Boom 12. You would know if it was a Boom 12.
Boom 12s are heavy. You're not hiking with a Boom 12.
That's true. But let's talk a little bit about that.
They had the Omega X Alps,
Wait, who's flying the Omega?
I think Patrick was.
No kidding.
Yeah, there's pictures all over Instagram.
So we're going to talk a little bit about free flying. Look, this is paragliding talk. So paramotor guys, don't just tune me out. Okay. You're going to want to get into free flying eventually. This is very important information.
Hey, Robert, even for the paragliders, like the X Red Rocks, I don't mean to interject here, but while it was the hike and fly competition, the weather turned it into the X Red Rocks hike and hike, basically.
Yeah.
you know. So leading up to the competition, they had been teasing like potential routes that we would fly, and like 2 weeks before, they had released all potential routes that they were going to select. And as the event got closer, they realized none of them would work, including the bad weather routes that they had selected. So like the night before, awesome job to the task committee, you know.
Yeah.
They would release these routes which fit the day. And so huge shout out to the task committee that put those together.
Yeah, that's the same group that puts on the Red Rocks fly-in every year. No?
No, so
Different group?
Red Rocks fly-in is done by Stacy and the Central Utah Air Sports Association, QASA, I think.
Okay.
And Stacy's the president. He's stepping down. Lindsay Ripa is going
Whoa,
to be
he's
taking
stepping
over.
down. No kidding.
Yeah, so he's retiring. Lindsay's taking over. And Lindsay was actually competing as well, and her husband, Tyler Burns, and he was competing. Tyler was in the pro, and Lindsay was in my class as well. So they put on the Red Rocks fly-in.
Yeah, yeah.
Gavin McClure is the organizer for the X Red Rocks, which just coincides with the Red Rocks fly-in.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So the fly-in was 6 days, started Monday and went through Saturday, and then the last 3 days of that was the actual X Alps.
Red Rock. See, you did it too.
Red Rock. Everybody there was doing it, and,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, the X Alps. And like, I know, I mean this one.
Yeah. Oh man. So when it comes down to business, you better have a light setup, especially when it's going to be a hike and hike type of competition. What were your big takeaways on just climbing the ladder? How do you want to say what were your takeaways about just getting in and trying to be better than at least one guy?
Trying to be better than at least one guy. So I guess, so when I first started, like day one task, like I didn't know what to expect because all the tasks and routes that I had previously studied out the window, you know, and it's like I got the task at 8 o'clock or something the night before. So I had been studying like a potential route. And so they drove us from the LZ out to the starting point, which is, you know, a turn point, which there was a road that just went up. I'm like, okay, I can maintain pretty good on I don't want to say a shallow incline, but just a consistent incline. And talking to other people, like one of the locals, he's like, oh no, I'm going to head back down like 300 feet elevation and then cut across up to a different trail. That different trail, so I quickly pulled it up on my phone, wasn't there. And so I'm like, well, I've done the stuff there. I don't expect to compete very well. You know, I'm just going to do my thing with no expectations, you know, like if I finish in the top 20, I'll be happy out of 30. And I didn't know there were only going to be 23 competitors at the time. So like, they're like, did the countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I noticed probably 85% of the pack went to where the local was going. It's where Aaron went, Patrick went, Tongai, Tim, everybody. And so I about started to walk that way, and I'm not going to drop names here because it's my choice. So I was about to go that way, be like, oh crap, I'm just going to follow the pack. And then I looked back at the trail that I had studied, and I see somebody, and I'm not going to name names, was heading up this other route. I'm like, absolutely, okay, I'm going my original route. If that person is going up this route, so am I. They know exactly what they're doing. So I followed that pilot and finally get up to the top, get up to the first launch, and I see like 2 pilots kind of laid out. And I look over, you know, and I ask the camera crew, I'm like, hey, how many people have launched? And they're like, everybody. And it's like, oh, we're like the last ones here to this turn point to launch. So lay out quickly, get the thing up in the air, full speed bar over to the LZ, because that's a ground turn point. and get over there, 2,000 feet over, spiral down, pack up, whatever. And come to find out, that route that we took was 2 miles longer.
Oh no.
We were literally like 45 minutes behind the lead pack. And it's just like,
whoops.
And so I look at like where the leaders are, because they gave us all fly masters for tracking. So I pull up and see where the leaders are and like where like the adventure class pilots were, and they were taking the next climb. So this route, day one, it was, start, turn point at the top to fly down, mandatory landing in the LZ. You had to touch it like 100 meters on the ground. And then the next waypoint was a finish line. And for the adventure class, it was 17 miles north up the valley somewhere. So the option is either pound the pavement for 17 miles or you climb up and relaunch, And I'm like, this is a hike and fly competition. I'm going to hike. I'm really tired because I actually stayed up on the hike up to the first turn point with this pilot, which was actually a pretty awesome accomplishment that I felt like. And two pilots. One of them's a big YouTuber too. Not Robert Michaels though. Sorry.
Speaking of big YouTubers, Wilson donated $10 to the super chat. He said, remember, for the price of a cup of coffee, you can sponsor paraglidingtalk.com.
That's right.
I think Wilson's trying to get a wrench and it's working.
You just need to donate 20 more coffees.
No, Wilson's donated. I think a couple times he threw some bigger numbers in the super chat, and he's winning me over.
Slipped and hit another zero.
Yeah. So that happened. A guy donated 500, and everybody was like, "Whoa, bro, 500!" And literally after the show, we were all laughing. We're like, wow, that was amazing. After he was like, bro, I did not mean to hit 500. And it went through. He's like, please, if there's any way you can refund me. And then I had to like consciously go through the motions to like, okay, wait a second, dude, this could be a scam because he's asking me now to send him back the money. And I'm like, wait a second, can I? And so I found out he was able to actually go. It wasn't malicious. It was totally accident. And he was able to go to Google, and Google was able to fix it.
Just pull it back
before it went through.
Yeah, that should be a thing where it's like you as a broadcaster, or Twitch streamer or whoever, that get the donations, you should be able to like go into an actual donation and be like reject or return,
right?
Know? And then it reverses it, as opposed to you going in and going into your account and then going to PayPal or wherever, whatever system they use, and then sending it, because that could be a phishing thing.
But then you'd have people like making donations just to get like notoriety or something, and then taking it away each and every time just to get notoriety. Like yeah. I can see where abuse could be taken form in that.
Speaking of abuse, it's time to spin the wheel, Sean.
Yeah.
Was it that time already?
Yep, Sean. He literally that's his whole purpose in life is he's down in the basement underneath my house.
Or my bowl of rice and square toilet paper.
All he does is literally put this wheel together every week.
Here we go.
That's pretty much it. I give him the light. By the way, this show is brought to you by Nebraska PPG. Josh Bowden, he runs a school in Nebraska. And if you're interested in getting some top-notch training, you can sign up with Josh and his team today. There's a link in the description. Also, the spin of this wheel is brought to you by Calamity Kite Clinic. And that's Sean's organization. If you want to learn how to kite better and be a master of ground handling, you can reach out to him by going to calamityKiteClinic.com. That's a mouthful. Also want to mention this show is brought to you by iFly Indiana powered paragliding. If you're interested in flying paramotors, there's no better place to get proper training than iFlyIndiana.com. Kevin and his team will get your feet off the ground. That's iFlyIndiana.com. You guys want to know what we're giving away tonight? We're giving away another keychain retractable deal. Oh, my neck and my back.
Oh,
Yankee
or AA Ron.
It's gonna be Aaron.
Oh wow, dude.
AA Ron.
Wow, that was so close.
Aaron.
And
I don't know if he's won one of those before or not. I think he might have, but I know he's won something from the show. So,
well, if you just keep watching long enough, every single person will win one.
Congratulations, Aaron. I
was looking back at some of there's never been anything that I've been able to ship out for less than $5. Everything is like $5. Yeah. You add up all the shows. Oh my gosh, it's so much. There's so much stuff that we've shipped out. We've kept the post office in business. It's insane. Oh, Hot Buttered Steve Productions. He donated $10 to super chat. I had to pre-read it. He said, Target was out of candle holders, so I bought a cake. Happy birthday, Hot Buttered Steve. Happy birthday. Gringo in the chat. He's out of control. Look, there 2 people just logged on. I want you to know that, by the way, Paint Bing now has 2 more subscribers to his YouTube channel. Congratulations for those 2 people who have found
awesome. Thank you.
A wonderful channel.
My subscriber count doubled like 3 months ago because one of my videos went, I don't want to say viral, but it shot from like 15,000 views to almost 57,000 views.
What the heck? Are you serious? Which one?
Yeah. It's the paragliding side collapse takeoff one. I was in Japan, still a student, and I launched, and right off of launch, I just got, took a hit.
Wow.
30% of the wing went away.
I haven't talked about it yet, and I didn't put it in a video. I ended up deleting the footage, but I was coming into land. No, I take that back. It's the next video that's coming out.
Post it.
Oh, yes. But you can't tell. It's not about my landing. It's about someone else's landing. But while I'm coming into land, the reason why I didn't notice this other guy full stalled right on the landing at the bailout. And I was coming in, and I like to swoop down and do some wing overs and get close to the train, and then I'll come in and land. I try to do like a long foot drag to the bailout, and that's kind of my fun at the end of the day. I took a huge whack. My glider handled like a champ, but I was close to the terrain, so it could have been like just a quick landing. I had plenty of airspeed. So anyways, I don't know why my thing doesn't switch to me when I'm talking. It's just stuck on Brad, but that's fine. So anyway,
hey, real quick before you get to the next one, Yankees says, so back to the hike and fly comp.
Yeah.
Where do they sleep at night?
Oh, good question.
Oh, so I slept in an Airbnb with 3 other local pilots here. It was great. Somebody had a mishap on day 1 of the fly-in, so Monday, and he decided that he was gonna make us food the rest of the week since he was no longer able to fly. So that was great. Great cook. He made like breakfast burritos every day. It was awesome.
What do you mean? Did he twist his ankle or something?
I don't know if I should share it here.
Okay, yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, he broke his back.
Oh, what the heck?
Yeah.
And he was still cooking dinner for you guys.
Yeah, it was a stable fracture, so he had a back brace, but he's like, no, I'll still cook for you guys. We're like, wow, cool, thanks, man.
That dude's tough as nails.
Bummer you can't fly.
That's dedication to the sport. You'll help other pilots out, even though you can't fly.
Yeah, like as soon as we got the diagnostic and whatnot, I was still in town, and the 2 other guys went to the hospital with him, and I'm like, is it too early to say we have a retrieve driver for the next 6 weeks? And they're like, no, we've already joked about that.
Dang, that's cold-blooded.
I mean, that's what happens. You get injured, you're the new retrieve driver as soon as you're mobile.
Yeah.
So
something that I wanted to ask about was your wing choice. Now, I know that you switched up. Obviously, you went to a lightweight setup. Talk about how that, because you don't typically fly. Like I love flying lightweight stuff. I've been flying the Alpina for the last like 3 years or more. I love it. I like the feedback. I like the attention. And if I land out, it's not as brutal as a full size or regular wing. Talk about your choice. What wing did you fly? And talk about your harness too. I'm interested.
Yeah. So when I first found out I was in it, it was like, oh, well, I'm not going to be hiking with my 50-pound cross country kit, which is a UP Maru and the Impress 4. And that's just a heavy kit, heavy kit. And so I knew I wanted like the Skywalk Range X Alps 2 harness, which is basically like the black trash bag that a lot of folks fly.
Yes.
And then I was kind of torn on what wing to use. And eventually I settled on the Climber 2, the Niviuk. And so I reached out to the local dealer up in Santa Barbara. I said, hey, you know, what's the price, lead time, whatnot? And he's like, lead time's mid-September is what it's looking like. And it's like, well, none of them are popping up on the, I mean, I think it's only been out right now, just under a year. So it's still a new wing. So nothing's hitting the forums, you know, nobody's accidentally bought the wrong size. So nothing was there. And I'm like, okay, let's put an order in and deal with it, you know, and if it doesn't show up, I guess I'll fly my old Delta 3, you know, heavier wing, whatnot. So it's getting close to the time, and it's like, is it coming? Is it coming? You know, finally it showed up, and he shipped it out to Utah, and it arrived the Friday before. So I was able to get 3 flights on it. The rest of the hike and fly kit is actually, the bag is actually Logan Walters' bag, because the wing didn't come with the hike and fly bag like we anticipated. So he's like, hey, your bag didn't show up. I'm going to send you mine. And when yours does, come up to Santa Barbara, fly, and we'll swap bags. So that's actually his bag that I think he competed in with at the X Prix in this last summer in Europe.
No kidding. It worked out pretty good, huh?
Oh, it worked out perfectly, you know, so I was able to get some flights on it. I run an open helmet and lightweight reserve.
And goggles?
Yeah, the Anons. And then just some carbon hiking poles.
Do you ever fly full face? I can't remember.
Yeah, I had that green downhill skate helmet, the TSG one.
Yes.
But
what do you
since
think
I wanted
about
to get
switching?
Yeah, so I switched the open face just to get used to it, and instead of like swapping back and forth, I wanted to just get used to this because there's a lot more wind noise and whatnot. So wanted to get accustomed to it.
So there's more wind noise with the goggles.
Yes.
Really?
Because as soon as you close that visor on that full face, like you're in a fishbowl, you know, which that itself took some time getting used to. It was like, oh, I have to fly with the visor open, because it's just like, I don't know I just feel like I'm tunnel visioning, which, you know, as we all know, in the air is extremely unsafe. So yeah. One of the nice things about the X Red Rocks is they're like, we're not having a radio. You don't need to carry your radio. I'm like, oh, there's 8 ounces gone. Thank goodness, you know, but we did have to carry a flashlight, extra battery bank, you know, to charge your phones, because we had to start a track log like 8 a.m. and then keep it running until we either tapped out for the day or reached goal, or end of the day, you know, time hit. So I only had to use it twice.
Let's get into the kind of nitty gritty questions. Now, you said there was an accident. Was there any accidents or events during the competition?
There were a couple. So as I was saying before, the weather out there was, I don't want to say unpredictable, but it turned out to where it was launchable sled ride in the morning. So we were able to hike and get at least one flight in. And then the winds up on the peaks it was just howling, you know, 25 gusting 30. And it's like, those are non-launchable conditions. So they tried to keep the tasks kind of down lower. On the third day, there were, you know, we all hiked up. Most of us got off. The folks that were kind of later to arrive, they launched into some pretty strong conditions and ended up spiraling down to land and get out of the air. I was able to side hill land with another pilot, and we're like, okay, well, we're going to have a better glide towards the turn point in the valley if we hike 500 feet up and then relaunch. Got up there and it was just blowing over the back. There's a lot of east that wasn't even in the forecast. And we're like, oh, okay. Ended up hiking all the way down. And when I got to the turn point, I was refilling my water and I look up and Patrick Von Cannell is flying in. And when I say it was windy and turbulent, it was windy and turbulent. Like his hands were just everything just to keep the wing flying over his head. Comes in, sets it down, soft as a butterfly. It was like, there's some serious skill sets. He rosettes, comes over and he asks, he's like, where are the leaders? And I said, oh, according to the map, they're rehiking up and going to relaunch. And he goes, they're crazy. They're so crazy. And he's like, just back there, 60-kilometer-an-hour headwind. I'm full bar going backwards.
Oh,
he's like, he's like, and I don't think we can push to the turn point. So this is like,
wow.
This is the second place finisher behind Kriegel in last year's Red Bull X Alps talking about this. Crazy. And this is like, it's like, okay, I guess I better get my hike on. So I start hiking and I notice this, like, I'm getting closer to the leaders, Aaron Duragati, Tongai, and then all the other locals that are just super, like, ultra marathoner athletes, excellent pilots, tip top shape. And I see this wing get pulled up, they pull it up and they launch and they start going up real quick. And it's like, that's great. And they're going backwards in the air. No. And it was like, oh, it's really windy. And so that was Aaron. And then he kind of pushes out away from the hill off the side compression, and then was able to penetrate. And then he kind of tucked back into the hill up backwards. And so he kept doing this. He was gaining ground, but it was very slow. It was faster just to walk. And so I did that, and 3 or 4 pilots ended up launching. And one guy, he ended up landing backwards about 15 kilometers an hour and didn't get hurt, luckily, but wing got all tangled in the bushes and whatnot. And this is pretty what's cool about this. Aaron Durgati, like, who ended up winning, and Tongai, they both went, they left course line to go help this pilot.
No kidding.
They did.
Wow, that's rad.
And and so that due to sportsmanship, that was taken into account at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, Aaron actually tied for first place. He made goal about 45 minutes behind. Oh crap, I can't remember his name. He's a Canadian. Anyway, basically one guy was able to make goal. But yeah,
somebody's fact checking right now though. It's okay. Somebody's pulling it up right now.
Hey, this is all from what I saw.
Yeah.
Fact, these may be alternate facts. I don't know. Yeah. So it's just super windy midday. The end of that day, I ended up hiking 30 miles, and I debated, like, right when I got down to the turn point, because it was like down a valley, back up. Our task was, I want to say, like 90K or something. And it was like, okay, hit the turn point. Now I'm going to have a tailwind. Maybe if it glasses off and the wind backs down, I'll be able to get in the air and then just have a tailwind and fly as far as I can. And when I hit the turn point, I had huge blisters on my feet. I'm like, there's no way I'm hiking up this hill. And a lot of the pro guys actually did hike up. And this guy they ended up making task and beat Aaron. He basically one climb out from down low on this little bench and glided all the way to goal, like 50K.
What?
One glide.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
With weather too.
Yeah. Well, it started backing down, and so it was just glassing off. He was up at 11,000 feet. Valley floors at, I think that valley floor was like 6,200 feet.
Oh, okay.
Because we were on the backside of Monroe Range there.
Oh, okay. Got it.
For day 3. I heard that there may have been some others. I don't have any other details on incidences. I think it was just try to be high wind launches and they get plucked and then
slammed
slammed down and then dragged through, across the ground. So
it's like Blossom. It happens every once in a while.
it happens.
He's thrown across the top.
Yeah.
I haven't had a good tossing in a while, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on the Cobra, and then a lot of just not launching and high winds.
That was one of the things. Yeah. So day two, after a hike up to the top, a lot of people were like launching off the bushes. I decided to hike up the road a little further and launch this road cutout, which is not too undifferent than the 800 at Little Black.
Who filmed that?
One of the film crews.
I saw that video, dude. I was so impressed with that.
Yeah, there were 7 guys filming the whole thing, and they're making a video, which is like, I don't want to say like a YouTube video, like
high quality,
full on release, have an official release. So they didn't give us any details other than it's going to be professional quality and it's going to be pretty big. So
that's awesome.
So one of the guys filmed it and it was just like, oh, heck yeah, I did it. Hey, by the way, back to your question on like, passing, what do I do to, passing the one guy?
Yeah.
So I didn't get to finish that. And like day one, I wasn't in it. It was like, what do you mean? 45 minutes behind. And I'm like, okay, well, it's a hike and fly competition. I'm going to hike back up, get up, and it's blown out. And it's like, I could hike and go maybe try to pass some of these people, wasn't in it. But then on day 2, had the awesome Cobra launch off this road cut, awesome glide out, touch a turn point, and landed. And I realized like I'm passing a lot of the guys that were in front of me. I want to say I would hike and I was probably right in the middle of the pack in my capabilities of hiking at that point. And it was like, okay, well, then there's 4-5 people in my class in front of me. Let's go. Let's do this, and that kind of like gave me the motivation. And so I'd turn and, touch the mandatory ground waypoint, hiked up, unloaded, flew, terrible glide, made it about a mile, was packing up. And one of the competitors was like coming up and I'm like, oh, he's actually in my class. I'm not going to let him pass me.
Yeah.
So I finished packing up and I start hiking. He's about 15 feet behind me. And all of a sudden he like jogs, he jogs and gets in front of me about 50 feet. And then he starts walking again. And I'm like, really? Okay. So I run past him and then, start hiking 15 feet in front of him. And this kind of goes back and forth 3 or 4 times. And we get to this long downhill route and he starts running. I'm like, oh my gosh, my knees are going to kill me on this. Yeah. We still have like 4 miles to goal at this point. And then I realized halfway down the hill, he stopped running and he's kind of struggling, like stepping over the rocks. I'm like, oh, I think I can run this down this hill. And I run past him. I run all the way to the bottom, just like put huge distance on him.
Yeah.
Which paid off because, we were both like playing psychological warfare on each other, but I pushed, whereas day 1, I'm like, I'm hiking, I'm not going to run. And all of a sudden it's like, there's an opportunity to take a place. I'm going to push it that much harder just to try to pass somebody, get that position. And
to the max.
Yeah. Day 3, the final day, I'm watching these guys take off, get blown back, whatever. The same guy from day 2, I see he's about a mile ahead of me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to try. So I'd like run 50 steps, hike 50 or hike 100 steps, And so I'm just like doing these cycles.
Yep.
And we had to like go up and over this hill, follow this power line thing. And I'm like, and then down the other side, I'm like, we're not flying. It's like 30 miles an hour here in the valley. I'm not going to hike up this hill. I'm just going to side hill around. And it's terrain I'm super comfortable in, sagebrush hills and whatnot. Yeah. And so he started hiking up the hill and I'm like, there's no way I can catch him if I hike up the hill. I'm going around. So I go around the hill and I come out, I'm about 100 yards behind him. I'm like, oh, game on. And I finally catch up to him but I'm spent at this point. And I'm like, hey, remember me from yesterday?
No.
And I noticed that he kind of started picking up his pace a little bit, and then I picked up my pace, and we were just still there. I'm like, I promise you, I'm not going to pass you if you don't run. I'll stick with you. And he's like, really? Oh, okay. And we actually ended up hiking probably 15 miles together.
Oh, that's rad.
Till the end of the day. You know, we kept pushing each other and whatnot, you know, encouraging each other and supporting each other.
Yeah.
So the third day, the two of us actually tied for third place.
Nice.
And that was pretty awesome. I
didn't even know that, dude. That's rad.
He ended up tying 4th overall in our division, and I ended up 6th. So the fact that I ended up like not hiking anything before I was selected, and then started training and whatnot to finish in 6th place overall, I'm pretty dang stoked.
It's Blossom, dude. I'm telling you, there's magic in that dust.
Yeah, Blossom, and then hiking up Palomar midday in the summer.
Palomar and eating what I mean, you were eating some really good stuff.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. So like,
what were you eating?
2 days before the competition, it was like, oh, let's go get some dinner, and the Otmars were there, and so like, they're like, oh, we're gonna go meet over there, and you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the grocery store. Went to the local grocery store there in Monroe, and went past the bakery, and I'm like, donuts. Yes, that's an athlete's breakfast and dinner right there. And so that's what I had. It was pretty delicious. I didn't really, I could have.
How long did you train?
From May until basically
5 months.
Yeah, 5 months. And I did have a little setback at the end of May. So before I had my lightweight kit, I would hike with my XC kit, and had some lower back issues with it. So that kind of put a damper on the intensity that I could train at. So
you had to go lightweight.
You have to go lightweight.
Yep.
You know, if you do a heavy kit, you can't have long miles. And I was trying to get a lot of hill climbing in, or distance, you know.
Yep.
Not both at the same time. Because, you know, it was like, okay, there could be potential, you know, you may have to hike 5 to 10 miles, you know, only to find out, actually, no, you have to hike 30 miles on one day. And I think I did about 15 miles on the ground.
Brutal.
On the first day, and 16 on the second day.
I don't even like to drive 15 miles. I want to mention a couple sponsors real quick. Maxacro.com. Maxacro.com is the website. If you want to sign up, get an SIV under your belt, that's a great place to start. Come here to Southern California. They're going to be out at Lake Berryessa. And then they have some trips overseas too. You can go to Turkey, and they've got some great clinics. Go sign up with them. You can go to the website. Let me see here. I should be able to. The website is maxacro.com. Now, I'm not going to try to pull that up, but anyways, go sign up. You'll be impressed. Max is amazing when it comes to getting you to do stuff on radio. He's a great teacher, and he's been in the game a long time. So go check out the website, maxacro.com. Also want to mention the show is brought to you by Lone Star Paramotor. Lone Star Paramotor, if you're in the state of Texas and you want to get some training, Ron Turan, he's the guy that runs the show out there. He's got a great team out there that will help you to get your feet off the ground. That's LoneStarParamotor.com. Go to their website, sign up for some paramotor training. It's amazing. Also, want to mention PPG, Resurgence PPG. If you're interested in supporting our men and women of uniform, you can make a tax-deductible donation to Resurgence PPG. And when you donate, you're sponsoring those who put their lives on the line for your freedom. America is a great place, and it's because of men and women like that. And so support our men and women of uniform by making a donation to Resurgence PPG. Reach out to Todd Scandrett and let him know that you're supporting him because you love your military personnel. So Brad, a couple of questions before we run out of time. Are you going to do another competition? What's the likeliness of signing up for another one?
I mean, if applications were tomorrow, absolutely. We'll see how I feel though.
See how fat you
no,
get?
it's a lot of fun. It's hard work. you put your everything into it, and you come out with a ton of friendships, and it's an amazing experience. So yeah, I think I'd apply again. And since I didn't finish in the top 5, I think I can apply for the adventure again.
Really?
Yeah, I think top 5 have to be bumped up to the pro.
Wow.
At least that was the case last year, because they were like, "Nah, we need to fill these pro slots."
That's very interesting. Well, you got to think too. America has about 5,000 registered pilots. You go to Europe and they have 100,000 registered pilots. So there's a huge gap in the amount of pilots. I have to argue that we have some really good pilots because the flying's not as good as it is over there. Like Blossom is not the greatest place to fly, although it's awesome Blossom for us. You can fly there every day. It's not like the Alps.
I mean, just on the grass alone.
Yeah. We fly Saboba, and we landed at a school one time in the grass, and I was so excited. I'm like, this is amazing. It's grass. It's like cleaning my wing. It's like a giant brush. I go to Torrey Pines and bring my glider out just literally to knock the Blossom off of it.
Oh yeah, that's go to Torrey. I got to clean out my wing.
Yep. Put that bad boy upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So ultimately 6th place, Red Rocks. I mean, we practically have a famous person on the show tonight.
Get out of here.
Brad, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and being a part of the show, and just
my pleasure
in general, coming and being involved in the show from the very beginning. I mean, you were one of the first few guys that I was like, hey, I'm going to do this and that. And that's 5 years ago. So we're having so much fun. And episode 233, pretty amazing. So thanks again for all the people who support the show on Patreon and PayPal. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate that. Again, just like our man Wilson said, he said, price of a cup of coffee. You can support a show that keep you safe, or maybe you learn something, or maybe you just, maybe there's guys that are still supporting the show that I don't see them in the chat. They just support the show because they know that we're doing something for the community. So maybe you want to support the show in other ways. Maybe it's just coming to watch every week and comment and be encouraged. We love you too. So I really appreciate everybody who's been a part of the show. All the guys that have been involved from the beginning. You guys are awesome. So stay tuned. We got some great stuff coming up, some great guests. We have a little delay on the test pilot for air design. He's going to be coming on. I'm really stoked about this episode, but I don't want to say too much more about it because I thought he was going to be on in the next couple of weeks, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But I'll keep you posted. Super stoked about that. And then we've got some other shows that are lining up that are going to be really good ones. So thanks for watching. We're going to go to the after show. We're going to put a link to the after show if you want to just come on and say what's up to Brad or hang out for a minute. A lot of the chaos happens right after the lights go out. So if you want to come hang out with us, you can. And so thanks again. You guys are awesome. Brad, thanks for coming on the show. Let's go fly.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, Anthony Peregringo, Sean Nafsker. You guys are awesome. Everybody in the chat, amazing. We'll see you on the next one. If I don't see you on the air, I'll see you in there. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.